Hi everyone. We are discussing the most valuable, scarce and irretrievable resource called time. See, in my time management workshop, I keep saying this to my participants. Are we sensitive to a resource? Do we know how much of the resource we had, how much of the resource we have, and what is the balance? This sensitivity, this awareness is very, very important. This consciousness is very, very important. In respect of resources which are visible, no problem. Let's say that we are driving on a highway and our fuel tank has an indication as to how much fuel we have and how much kilometers we can travel. So we are very, very conscious about it. Supposing the fuel gauge is hitting the end and it is almost at the red mark, it's dangerously low and there is no indication of the next petrol bunk. Let's say a situation like that, right? Will we not become very, very conscious about what do we do with the resource? Let's say that the petrol tank is full and we are held up in a traffic jam, the engine may be running. If the fuel tank is showing almost zero and we know that anytime the fuel will be exhausted, automatically we'll switch off the engine, we'll switch off the AC, because we have become very, very conscious about what is the balance, right? Similarly, with respect to money, for example, at the beginning of the month when we are having enough cash flow, cash in hand will be little liberal. But as the day goes, obviously when we spend money, the balance will come down. In fact, 100 rupees is not the same value at the beginning of the month, the middle of the month and the end of the month. In fact, a friend of mine will jokingly say that we pass through the golden week, silver week, copper week and pauper week. The golden week is that first 1 week as soon as we got our salary. Slowly we get into the silver week, then copper week, pauper week, last week we'll be very, very careful. Now why am I saying all this? Do we equate time as a resource is very, very important. The problem with time is that you do not recognize, you do not see it passing. Do you recall that this day last week, it looks as though it was just a moment before. 1 week has gone. Now 6 months have already gone. Only it looks yesterday that we were all wishing each of us Happy New Year. Half the year is gone. And with the winking of an eyelid, 1 more week, 1 month will pass. And once again we'll be wishing Happy New Year and Happy Christmas, right? So it's such an important factor that we are sensitive to time. And this sensitivity will make you to be very wise with reference to the use of the resource. Like the resource of petrol we were talking about, the resource of money we were talking about. So we have to be very, very sensitive. Let us talk about 3 frames of time: the past, the present and the future, right? All of us have a past, all of us have a present and all of us have a future. I want you to make a chart like this. Where are we heading to? Let us evaluate ourselves on 7 parameters. Have a 0 to 10 scale and ask yourself physically, how fit were you 5 years ago on a 0 to 10, right? And mentally, in terms of blissfulness, in terms of satisfaction, in terms of happiness index, where were you 10 years ago or 5 years ago on a scale of 0 to 10? Attractiveness in terms of all of us are getting old a baldness will appear and wrinkles will appear over a period of time. And even in terms of personality, how attractive were you 5 years ago? What are the traits that you had? What did people comment about you 5 years ago? Even your, the energy level is also very, very important 5 years ago. Then in terms of relationship, how well was your relationship quotient 5 years ago on a 0 to 10 points? Then we have the living environment. What type of a house were you occupying? What type of a car you were using? The comfort level of money, wealth that you have 5 years ago. In terms of social scale, the quality of friends, the circle of friends that you have, how well were you 5 years ago? And last but not the least, career-wise, what was your satisfaction index in terms of your career? So index these 7 parameters on a scale of 0 to 10. Now come to now. Honestly rate yourself. Are you physically fit today on a 0 to 10? What about your BP, your sugar, right? Your basic parameters, health parameters, right? Mentally, in terms of your emotions, your happiness, your clarity kind of thing. Attractiveness in terms of personality, in terms of fitness, how are you now on a 0 to 10 points? In terms of relationship, friends and family, how are you on a 0 to 10? So living environment, where are you now? How are you now? In the types of furnitures that you are using, the locality you are living kind of thing. And socially, your social status in terms of 0 to 10 points, and last but not the least, career. So evaluate yourself in these 7 parameters today. Now at this rate, by now you will know physically how are you 5 years ago, physically how are you today, project it if you do nothing. If you do nothing, that is the key question you need to ask yourself. Right, let's say that your physical fitness 5 years ago in terms of energy level, in terms of your BP or vital parameters, right, has it come down? If you do nothing, what's going to happen, right? Then similarly, mentally, attractiveness, relationship, living environment, socially and career-wise, how are you today? At this rate, if you do nothing to change, where will you be 5 years from now? Do this exercise honestly. In fact, in my time management seminars, we ask the participant to do it in the session itself. Then they discuss in groups of 2 or 3. Now, this is a very, very important exercise because, as I said, time is a resource which you don't notice, which you don't see. Because we don't see it, it's not in our conscious awareness, and then there's no point in regretting whatever we are going to have or we are not going to have. Do this exercise and see what happens to your sensitivity to time. If you are not subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe, press the bell button. See you in the next episode.